We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Buddy, we are back. Mondays are the best days because the weekend, you got some good stories off the weekend. I know you went out to what? Charleston? Give me a highlight from Charleston.
There's a lot of the food out in Charleston is incredible. The weather was incredible. I'm a little tan if you're watching on YouTube.
Love that.
Got a little sun. There was a guy though, we were at this outdoor patio restaurant / bar called Saltwater Cowboy. And they have a DJ who's also playing the violin as he DJ'd. It was one of the coolest things I've seen in my entire life. He's like banging out the violin at the same time as like
DJing?
Yeah, like as these EDM songs, like he's playing it alongside. It was just,
dude, that's nuts.
It was a good experience.
He just put all other DJs on notice. He's like, hey, yeah, cool that you guys are spinning discs and stuff.
I'm playing the
play. He's out there just rocking.
Yes.
That's incredible.
I feel like you can't be a lame DJ at a bar called Saltwater Cowboy, though.
Yeah,
it was one of the coolest bars. Saltwater Cowboy was right on the water at Shem Creek there in Charleston.
Any notable food highlights?
I had a chicken parm sandwich. That was probably the best chicken parm sandwich I've ever had in my entire life. The bread was like naan-ish bread. It was like that unleavened whatever. The food out there is nuts. It's an interesting little city. It's not like a big city, but
I've never been. It sounds awesome.
It's cool.
I've never been. That chicken parm. I don't know the last time I've even had a chicken parm.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a lot to compare it to chicken parm wise. I probably had maybe fewer than a dozen in my entire life, but of those fewer than a dozen, this was number one.
This might be dating us a little bit, but remember the popular Peyton Manning commercials? The chicken parm, you taste so good. I don't remember what
it was better than that chicken parm.
It was?
It looked better.
Very cool. I don't have any highlights. My dad is back on the wagon. He sent me, I shared it with everyone on the podcast group, but we can't talk about it yet. For legal reasons. We're going to figure this out. My dad's in a situation that we've seen before, but it's too recent to discuss on the pod. But he's healthy. He's okay. Healthy is probably a stretch. He's okay. We'll see where it goes.
As healthy as he's been before.
The only story I've got is that I have to bring this up. Anna Taylor-Joy.
Oh, you're obsessed with her.
I'm obsessed. And I don't know. She's not like the traditional hot, in my opinion, like other celebrities.
This is the main actress from Queen's Gambit.
One of the most successful Netflix show ever. Won a Golden Globe this past weekend. And honestly, she has this magnetism about her that I just truly respect.
That's like you. She's the
We're
female
meant to
version
be,
of you.
you know? Like, if she's looking for a queen or a king, yikes.
She's looking to knock off.
My DMs are open, Anna. My DMs are open, you know? Like, that's all I'm going to say. But
you guys want to know a secret?
Yeah.
Still haven't seen Queen's Gambit.
Dude.
I think I'm the last person on earth. And I got to be honest, I'm not a huge chess guy.
Mm-hmm. I will say, and I dropped this take on Twitter, the ending is fit for Disney. Okay. It is like, spoiler alert, her and all her friends, just like
her exes, basically.
Yeah, her everyone she slept with in the movie comes together to help her win the big game. It's like, I was expecting,
if everyone I slept with in real life came together, it would be a disaster.
It would also be a crowded room.
Stop.
Well, now I don't have to watch it. I know how it ends.
What is that, a cruise liner? Anyway, let's jump now to the why you came here, the podcast. And I had multiple people DMing me, asking us, guys, you have to go over the Charley Casserly mock draft because this thing is incredible. It is off the beaten path.
We try to hit mocks of friends of the pod, usually, or the Kuipers of the world. But this one, we're going to make an exception because it had some swings for the fences, proverbially.
So we have producer Quinn, who obviously works the cameras and works the audio editing, all that stuff. We also have producer Dave, who works the talent booking, interview booking, and stuff. He's trying to get Bucky Brooks on. We're working to get Todd McShay on to rehash some of the gripes you have with him.
Yeah, I got no gripes.
Charley Casserly, I don't know if we want to bring him on after this. We'll see how it goes. But I'm going to read through some of the crazy picks in this mock draft here. So Jacksonville Jaguars at 1, Trevor Lawrence. Jets at 2, take Zach Wilson. The Miami Dolphins take Jamar Chase at 3. And then at number 4, Carolina Panthers trade up with the Atlanta Falcons to grab Trey Lance, which I don't think is all that crazy, but go Trey Lance over Justin Fields is somewhat of a non-consensus opinion. And then at 5, Penei Sewell to the Bengals, Devontae Smith to the Eagles. Nothing crazy here. Detroit Lions, Micah Parsons at 7. The wild one is the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons.
Was it Charlie Day, just wild card?
Yeah, it just goes off the rails here. The Atlanta Falcons, after trading back from 4 to 8, grabbed Najee Harris, running back of Alabama. And in the analysis, it looks like it's, Todd Gurley, a pending free agent. Oh, this is the best part. The Falcons trade back and still get their top choice. If their top choice is Najee Harris, I think there need to be some question marks about the front office. I hope Najee Harris is not their top choice, but I will say that that's the most wild pick of this first round. Do you see this in any possibility happening?
No, I think in this day and age, if that happened, if you did that, you'd, as a GM, you're the incumbent GM, like you should be fired immediately if that's how you went with that roster as is right now. Well, you know what's insane? Todd Gurley is 26 years old. Todd Gurley is quote unquote washed up at 26 years old. That is pretty much all. I don't want to say all you need to know, but like that is a lot of why we say don't invest these guys that should be 10 to 15 years of your franchise in a pick number 4, pick number 8 overall after trading back here. That guy should be a cornerstone. That guy should be there for, like I said, 10 to 15 years. It shouldn't be a guy who's going to be feasibly washed up by 26 years old because of the beating that position takes. So, no, do not draft Najee Harris. That would be absurd.
The other thing, too, and I was looking at this over the weekend, is, the cap situation and like highest paid players at each position. The bottom 3 positions, when you look at the average for the top 5 paid players at each position, are center at $12.8 million, running back at $11.7 million, and tight end at $10.7. The least valued positions on the open market in the NFL. If you draft Najee Harris at 8, he will immediately become, on his rookie contract, I think top 15 paid running back in the NFL if you draft him at 8. And that was the whole discussion. So throw running backs don't matter out the window. Throw their value and all that out the window in terms of like what they do on the field, and it's more dependent on run blocking. Simply look at it as what the NFL does with the NFL draft picks. When Saquon Barkley was drafted at number 2 overall?
Yes.
He was immediately top 5 paid at his position.
Yeah.
That is the problem. The problem is that the NFL, I was trying to explain this to, or talk about it with Brad Spielberger, PFF's own cap analyst.
Yeah, I think you explain the cap.
Not explain it to him, but I was like kind of like talking through it with him. And it was like, if your mom gave you a raffle ticket, this magic raffle ticket to get, and you could buy any car you wanted with this raffle ticket. It could be a freaking Ferrari, or it could be a Hot Wheels car. It's like you have the number 2 overall pick and you use this raffle ticket on a Hot Wheels car from a value perspective, because you're not juicing as much as you can out of it from a dollars perspective. So Najee Harris drafted that high would be absurd for multiple reasons. Regardless of how you value him as a prospect, it's just like that number 8 overall pick gets paid the same amount regardless of the position you take. Factor in positional value. Grab an offensive tackle. Grab an edge defender, a pass rusher, whatever it may be. All right, moving on from here, Charley Casserly. Denver Broncos take Farley at 9. That's common. Surtain at 10 to the Dallas Cowboys. Waddle to the Giants is something we're kind of consistently seeing now. That's almost becoming kind of chalky. Then a little bit of a run on edge defenders. San Francisco 49ers take Kwity Paye. I think that's the first edge defender off the board at 12. And then Rashawn Slater to the Chargers at 13. Then Jalen Phillips at 14 to the Minnesota Vikings, which leaves Kyle Pitts falling all the way to 15 to the New England Patriots. That would be quite the pick. If Pitts falls to 15, which I don't think he will, I do think the Patriots sprint the card in, but I also think the 5 teams drafting ahead of him also sprint the card in.
Yeah, there's too many teams, I think, that realize what he could do in their offense for him to fall to 15. He is about as rare a prospect for his position as exists in this draft. That's it. I don't think it's going to make it 15.
He has Christian Darrisaw, Virginia Tech offensive tackle, going to the Cardinals at 16. Raiders take, I haven't seen this one before, Elijah Vera Tucker, interior offensive lineman. Projects as an interior offensive lineman, could play tackle, potentially going to the Raiders at 17. Dolphins keep Gregory Rousseau in Miami with their number 18 overall pick. Washington football team grabs Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Nothing too crazy here so far, kind of just moving through it. Tony to the Bears at 20. Tevin Jenkins of Oklahoma State to the Colts at 21. Jalen Mayfield, a lot of tackles, a lot of pass rushers getting drafted, which from a positional value standpoint makes sense. Still wondering where the hell's Justin Fields? Justin Fields has not come off the board.
Yeah.
Jalen Mayfield at 22 to the Titans. Joe Tryon at 23 to the Jets. And then finally, Pittsburgh Steelers hit an absolute grand slam in the bottom of the ninth of the World Series and grabbed Justin Fields of Ohio State at 24. This would be absolutely insane. Farcical, if I had to use a word for it. Absolutely farcical if Justin Fields falls to the Steelers at 24.
Yep. I mean, I cannot fathom a world. It's one of those, it almost feels like he made up the mock draft, had a bunch of fits he liked, and then it's like, oh shit, I forgot Justin Fields. Oh, okay, throw him in here. I didn't have a great fit for the Steelers. Let's throw him in here because he even writes up, in a stunning turn of events, Fields slides all the way to 24. It's a little bit more than stunning. It's a completely farcical turn of events.
He's going to need a Laramie Tunsil gas mask day of the draft.
Well, no, you know what it's going to be? Charley Casserly is the king of the hand-timed 40. Maybe he, on Charlie's watch. Yeah, maybe it's not great.
Charlie's out there with his arm out, just that's a 4.9 from Justin Fields, down to 24. The rest of his mock is kind of chalky. Those are the two major things. Is that Najee Harris going at 8, Justin Fields going to 24, and Pitts at 15. Those are like the three kind of like, whoa, can't believe that happened picks in this mock. After that, it's like Barmore to the Jags, Horn to the Browns, Trayvon Moehrig to the Baltimore Ravens, Jason Oweh, again, a ton of pass rushers, to the Saints at 28. Green Bay Packers grab Zaven Collins at 29. Joseph Asai, another pass rusher, at 30 to the Bills. And then lastly, Greg Newsome, cornerback of Northwestern, to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then Patrick Jones, another pass rusher, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 32. That was a ton of defensive line talent coming off the board in this first round mock, which again, this one is one of the more stunning, one of the more off the beaten path mocks we've really seen this season.
I will say it doesn't get to MJD levels of what the hell is going on in this mock draft, which I can't wait for MJD to drop his first mock. Last year came March 31st was the incredible Justin Herbert number 1 overall, Tua Tagovailoa number 2 overall to the Chargers, with the trade happening, and then Joe Burrow falling all the way to 5. That was the MJD banger. So it doesn't get to that level, but it's just I can't fathom how he must have. It's one of those where like I think he has inside info that the Falcons probably like Najee Harris. Falcons they're still not going to draft Najee Harris. They'd be crazy to draft Najee Harris if they stay there in the top 10 though.
Yeah, I mean they could like Najee Harris all they want, but you don't take him at 8.
Yeah, because I do remember like he is obviously connected throughout the league. I still remember when I used to do mock drafts growing up with my family to see who would get the most picks right. I said Jake Locker to the Titans because he said Jake Locker was going to go to the Titans, and he was emphatic about it like 2 days before the draft. And so, yes, he has info, but that's one that that's not Jake Locker to the Titans for me.
I mean, if you have a scout or an analyst or some decision maker or part of the decision-making process in your front office that is advocating for Najee Harris in the top 10, I do think that's a fireable offense. I honestly do. I honestly do. You are obviously not factoring in the ample, copious amounts of data available that suggests that picking that position that highly rarely leads to success.
You're just going to make a lot of other decisions then that are probably not within the best long-term vision of your franchise. All right, and it's like there's no one has the scouting eye has been proven that no one can gain that big of an advantage over that in that regard.
I'm going to continue to bang the table.
I do believe that some people know better than others. Like that's still obviously a thing, but it's not nearly as big a thing as other ways of team building.
I'm going to continue to bang the table to at least cut your evaluator budget in half and spend the other 50%.
I don't think these teams are needing that big of a budget. I think they're making money hand over fist to begin with, that they can just spend the money.
Dude, continue to pay all the scouts, whatever you need to do. I'm just saying, if it's a budget issue that you're not hiring personal assistants for the Isaiah Wilsons of the world, then you should remove some of the talent spend. Or no, the evaluator spend is where my head is. Let's jump to something a little bit less farcical here. Also on NFL.com, close friend of the podcast, I think he's been on 2 or 3 times, Daniel Jeremiah, dropped his latest top 50. And I think the biggest thing that stands out to me after Trevor Lawrence at 1 and Jamar Chase at 2, I thought we were high on Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase at 2. Number 3's got Kyle Pitts. And I think this, unlike PFF's draft board, doesn't factor in positional value as much. It does, I think, in some places, but it doesn't factor in positional value as much as ours does. So it really does speak to like how rare he sees both Chase and Pitts compared to their respective positions.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of suggesting or hinting at earlier, is that if you're not taking positional value into account, if you're just saying this guy compared to his position, how rare is he? Kyle Pitts is easily a top 3. It should be top 3 on every single draft board. It's the only guys I can see arguments for other guys in this draft. Penei Sewell being ahead of him, Trevor Lawrence, maybe Micah Parsons, but even then, I think that Kyle Pitts would be ahead of him. That's about it. Like he could be even number 1 on this draft board. That's how special he is for the tight end position as a prospect. He's just a different dude. So yeah, Kyle Pitts at 3. If you have him outside of the top 5 and you're not, again, taking positional value into it, you're wrong.
And I think you said that, and I think you said that on the Thursday podcast, saying like, hey, if your draft board does not take into account positional value, Pitts needs to be like, the number 2, number 3 player. And you have it here from Daniel Jeremiah. At 4, he's got Zach Wilson. Again, Caleb Farley at 5. Very high in Caleb Farley. That speaks to how well, and that I think is very encouraging for PFF's draft board.
4.24, by the way, Caleb Farley.
So Caleb Farley said he's been running 4.2 since high school, but tells people 4.3s because they don't believe him. I think it's true. I think he is in the 4.2 range. Laser time, maybe it's like 4.31, 4.32, but like hand time, Charley Casserly out there pegs Farley at a 4.25 or in that range. I do think he's that fast. At over 200 pounds.
He is, anytime I flipped on his tape, he caught up with every single person that got behind him. Every single time a person got behind him, even Chase Claypool got behind him. Chase Claypool, long strider at 6'4", 4.4 speed. When he got behind him, Caleb Farley made that up in a blink. Like that is why I think DJ's as high on him as he is. That's why we're as high on him as he is, because when you have speed like that, size and length like he does, it gives you that room for error. You can lose a step, but then you gain it back. That's what, like 4.24 though is still rare.
Yeah,
a legit 4.2.
I mean, it's faster than Deion Sanders.
Yeah,
and he's heavier than Deion.
Guys who roll into the combine that like Jeff Demps, who was a 10 flat 100-meter guy, did not run 4.24. That is a legit Olympic level athlete, sprinter, weren't running 4.24. That's a juice time. I'd be very surprised.
And he's also a friend of the podcast.
You tell me he's a straight 4.3 flat guy? Okay, I could believe that, but not 4.24.
4.24. All right, so at 5 he had Farley. At 6, Jalen Waddle. Which is cool to see. Again, Daniel Jeremiah on the side of Devontae Smith not being the number 1 or number 2 receiver in this class. But again, all those guys are in his top 10. I think he has Devontae Smith at 8. Rashawn Slater at 7. The number 1 offensive tackle on his board is still Rashawn Slater.
Now number 9 is Penei Sewell. The gap's closing. I see that flipping. We're gonna get DJ on the pod, and we're gonna convince it to flip on his board.
I like it. Yeah, Penei Sewell I think is right now the number 1 offensive tackle on all analyst boards except for Daniel Jeremiah. Daniel Jeremiah holding true for Rashawn Slater, a guy who, like, again, is a very, very good offensive tackle prospect, and if not, a very, very good guard prospect. I know a lot of people see him playing at an elite level at guard in the NFL. Devontae Smith at 8, Sewell at 9, Micah Parsons at 10.
So Zierlein also has Slater over Sewell.
Oh, really?
If you click on the links on Daniel Jeremiah's top 50, you can get Zierlein's takes on these guys. I don't think they've officially all dropped yet, but
he does his draft profiles every year. Yeah. Zierlein does a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Trey Lance of North Dakota State at 11, ahead of Justin Fields at 12. Do you think you're going to start to see more analysts have Lance over Fields? Because I've been lately seeing more people stand for Mac Jones than Lance and Fields. Like Chris Sims was saying Mac Jones is a better prospect than Tua Tagovailoa. Same with Seth Galina.
I can't take Chris Sims seriously. I'm sorry. But Seth Galina saying that Mac Jones or Tua, he's watched both, and I will take that noteworthy. I don't agree, because I still think that there's a level of projection and physical tools matter, and Tua had better physical tools projecting the NFL. But I think like as far as prospects themselves go, and like the way they played their final years of college, yes, Mac Jones I think played better football than Tua did his last year of college. So I could see that. The one that's interesting to me is where the NFL will end up on Lance, because I think I tweeted out back when the Jets were locked in the number 2 that it wouldn't surprise me if he was the guy that goes number 2, because it's easy to fall in love with the skill set he brings to the table. It's everything. Everything physically you could want is there. What's it going to turn into? I don't know, but that's what scouting is, projecting those tools and developing. That's what coaching ends up being, is putting those physical tools into, what we saw from Josh Allen this past year, developing them in an offense. And so I think if I had to bet right now, I think there around the league, more people would be higher on Lance than they would Fields.
When you were in Charleston, Anthony Tresh filled in for your spot on the Sirius radio show we do from 7 to 9 every single week. And he was standing for the idea that Mac Jones is a better prospect than Trey Lance. And his primary concern, just hear this out, is Trey Lance's accuracy. If you look at his ball location charting, according to PFF, among first-round quarterbacks or projected first-round quarterbacks for the past 3 years, it's by far the worst. It's less than 50% on throws 5+ yards downfield. What are your takeaways, or I guess your counter arguments to people who have concerns with Trey Lance's accuracy? Yeah,
it's an issue. One, he threw downfield more than anyone else. Like 5 yards, the 5+ yards, whatever he was throwing, most of his throws were intermediate, probably like 12+ yards down the field. That was that offense. There were no gimme throws in that offense. He's not throwing, a ton of RPOs, a lot of stuff like that. So that's one. Two is that he has a very small sample size. Is the other thing. We just don't know. That's kind of the allure of him too, is 18 dropbacks a game in one season.
And he was 19.
That's what you got. Yeah.
He's 19 years old.
Yeah. It's like he is the youngest of all these top guys. That's kind of what you're buying into, is that he's not completely inaccurate. Like this isn't Christian Hackenberg we're dealing with, where he's going to have to completely change that aspect. There are quarterbacks, he would come in and be one of the least accurate quarterbacks in the NFL immediately, but we've seen quarterbacks succeed with slightly better accuracy numbers than him once he gets in.
What do you think he runs? Tresh is saying 4.9, 4.8, 4.9. Is he high?
What?
Tresh is high.
I think low 4.6s.
Yeah, I would say in the 4.5s. If it's hand timed at Exos' pro day, you might run the 4.4s. Can we talk about that a little bit? I had a handful of people DM me asking, like, what is your opinion of these Exos combine numbers? Rashad Bateman runs in the 4.3s. Tylan Wallace clocks in the 4.3s. I think there was another receiver that ran the 4.3s. I think they're all. This is what I said. This is my biggest takeaway. The NFL needs to get better at collecting GPS data, and I think I saw Kevin Clark of The Ringer tweeting about this. GPS data at the collegiate level. So that way you can track game speed in miles per hour with pads on, average it, or track their top speed. Because these 40-hour dash times, as you could see more after this year, here's a take. After this year, I think you could see more receivers or more players maybe opt out of running the 40 at the combine to do it at their pro days and get these better numbers. Because what is the actual opportunity cost? I don't think teams take you off your board if you run a 4.3 something at your pro day but chose not to run at the combine. I do think that something that I talked to Mike Tannenbaum recently, former Jets and Dolphins GM. He said something that scouts always do is that they match wherever they weighed in. And if they ran a 40 that day, that's what we're matching up with. If they weighed in once and then ran a 40 later, they're almost like scrap it. It's like you have to run a 40 with the weight you weighed in at. Yeah. So I think that's another thing too.
Yeah, and you take the best 40. Like you take the best one you get on your watch, though, is the biggest thing. Is the on the watch part, they don't care about a reported 40 time.
Yeah.
It has been for the entirety of scouting history. If it's not on your watch, like you're not just going to take some random.
And there were NFL scouts obviously at the Exos Pro Day who were clocking it.
So we'll see what the scouts, like they have their own times for this 4.38 or whatever. I wish you could get they had better video of it that they released instead of this view that's 2 inches off the ground and you can't tell where either the finish line or the starting line is. And so you're just like, what does that even matter? Like that, what? It's just for like an Instagram show, basically, to have that camera angle. But Sadly,
I'm not one to shy away from an IG
dark.
show. Like, I like an Instagram show here and there, but it's just not going to be my cup of tea. Gregory Rousseau at 13 on Daniel Jeremiah's big board. Patrick Surtain at 14. Elijah Vera Tucker at 15. Trayvon Moehrig at 16. Daniel Jeremiah and you are getting a little bit closer. You guys are seeing the game the same way, because I don't think
lockstep on Moehrig.
Huh?
We're in lockstep.
Lockstep with Trayvon Moehrig. I think he's also another guy that is going to get underrated for how smart that dude is. Very cerebral player. When I talked to him, I think that was one of the biggest, and he mentions it here, instincts in the first sentence. I do think that you see that on his tape, and when you talk to him, the guy is an absolute gamer that really studies the film.
It really is crazy when going back and watching the TCU safeties. You're like, is it just like TCU scheme or something? But no, they really are kind of just, those are different dudes in the way they play the game of football. They are Gary Patterson's one of the best defensive coaches, college football history probably. But those guys, even compared to TCU safeties of the past, are just, safeties throughout college football. Those guys are special players. The fact that they were, I believe, in the same recruiting class is kind of incredible.
I'm going to scroll through a little bit. Don't want to name every single player in his top 50. You can check that out at NFL.com. I think another notable, a few slots down here, is Joe Tryon, the Washington edge defender, coming up 5 spots to 27. He's the guy that, when I've talked to others that have worked out with him or former teammates, has said he is a completely different player since opting out. He has built his body completely differently to a point where he's an absolute monster. And that's the hardest thing to build, because when you are, and I know you hate when I talk to people and it affects opinions or whatever, the interview stuff. But I will say this. The most recent season you played is often the one that you kind of hang your hat on when you're going into the draft and what scouts look at the most. You didn't get that with Joe Tryon. So now you're starting to look at this projection of what kind of player he's going to be. And maybe 2019 from a production standpoint wasn't great, but that wasn't going to be his last season until COVID-19 took over the world. Now you see him completely transform his body and have some of these length and athleticism traits you like. I think it's going to be very hard to project a guy like Joe Tryon. And so much that people are just going to flock to the fact that he looks like a superhero without the cape and has all these tools.
This one, guys like him in this draft class are the ones that are really gonna suck to evaluate, because the last time we saw him play football, he was 20 years old. The next time we see him play football, he's gonna be 22. That is the biggest physical difference. That's where you really change as an athlete. Are those
also as a human? It's a lot of cognitive difference going from 20 to 22.
Yeah, you try alcohol for the first time in your life. Everyone does, but no, I'm kidding. That is a big step that we're going to miss out on in his development. And so you're just going based off of physically what you think he can do. And he has reps physically where, that's the reason people are hiring him, is because he can do things physically that a guy like even Rashad Weaver can't. Rashad Weaver, very talented, graded out extremely well. He's not going to stack Penei Sewell in the run game the way Joe Tryon did in some reps.
Yeah.
Just can't. They don't have that level of explosion. Tryon does.
And I think this is a good segue, too, to another comment that Mike Tannenbaum made with Tresh and I on the Sirius show, and that a lot of teams, he said, are going to value 2022 picks more than 2021 because there's just going to be more information on the players you're drafting the following season when you have less opt-outs and those things. And it's going to be guys like Tryon that people are scared of picking and would rather say, hey, he's a value on our board right now. Maybe we trade back a little bit, or maybe we trade for a future pick to get out of the situation where it's even a bigger lottery ticket than it was in previous years. It is, you're banking on a guy that you haven't seen play. Same with Trey Lance too. Trey Lance is another example of a guy that you've seen one game from him in the last 16 months. And the last time you saw him play, he was averaging 18.3 dropbacks a game at 19 years old. Trading for future picks where you'll most likely have more information is something that Tannenbaum said more things would happen, or more teams are going to. Moving forward here, Levi Nwuzurike at 28, Nick Bolton at 29. Something to highlight here is the Kentucky guys. Jamien Davis, if you scroll a little bit past here. Before we get to Jamien Davis, 31. I want to keep talking about this kid. We've talked about him a handful of times lately. Greg Newsome. Up 9 spots on his board, and the more you turn on that tape, dude, the more games you watch, he has got some special hip fluidity, some special movement skill set, and the length that I think teams are really going to buy into. Yeah.
The biggest thing with him was the role was just so limited. They are spot drop cover 3 at Northwestern. And then he didn't play against Ohio State, I think a dozen or so coverage snaps before he got hurt in that one. So he didn't play a lot of top competition in the Big Ten this year in terms of the wide receivers he faced. So You got a guy who played almost exclusively zone, off zone, trying to project him to the NFL where, there are some schemes that just do that are, and I think they're even growing. Like the Fangio tree, he is perfect for. And that scheme's obviously, I think we've talked about. That's my bet for the scheme du jour that starts proliferating around the NFL and already has with multiple teams this offseason. So he is perfect for that. That is a great scheme for him. It's just we haven't seen him do too much else or face too much top competition. But man, I agree. I'm in on that physical skill set, what he brings to the table. I don't think he's the fastest, but I think with his length, he can make up for it, and just the way he can move, change direction ability, really is special.
What he's able to do in off coverage, I think, is really, really impressive. When there is admittedly space, and you're obviously trying to limit space at the quarterback position, but when there's admittedly space between him and the receiver he's covering, he's able to still make up ground in that area or like take good angles to kind of cover ground. And I think that is something I took away. Jumping down to 35 on Daniel Jeremiah's board. He wasn't even ranked inside his top 50 the last time he published one of these. Jamien Davis of Kentucky, the linebacker, a guy that you've talked about that his role, like similar to Newsome, his role, they didn't ask him to turn his back to the line of scrimmage a ton, didn't do a ton of complex things in coverage, but athletically, length, like this is another one of those guys with traits that regardless of maybe his production in college, teams are going to jump at because he's got these traits.
Yeah, and I think that skill set that is kind of what everyone wants at linebacker now. The thing that got Tremaine Edmonds drafted in the first round, I fucking blow their names every time. Tremaine, not Terrell.
Tremaine.
I don't know what got Terrell Edmonds drafted in the first round, but I know this is what got Tremaine Edmonds drafted in the first round, was that he is long and fast at the linebacker position. Long and fast. You could shut down windows by being simply long and fast. That is a lot of teams that are zone-heavy teams that are going to use him in that role. They'd want that just because, it's almost something we can't even sort of quantify, and I don't even know if it really can get taken into account in our grading, is that you see a guy who has a 7-foot wingspan at linebacker versus a guy who has a 6 foot 3-inch wingspan at linebacker. It's like in basketball. Like you just can't pass around the guy. You're not even going to go for that pass. Even if they're in this exact same spot, maybe you don't feel as comfortable about throwing over a guy like that. And it just gives you that level of room for error.
Right after Jamien Davis is Tutu Atwell, who's dropped down 5 spots since his last ranking, but still at 36, and a handful of spots over guys like Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, among others. Rondale Moore as well. Do you think he continues to fall down Jeremiah's board as he gets closer? Because I do think that the more you turn on the film for guys like Amari Rodgers, even Jaelon Darden, obviously Rondale Moore, Rashad Bateman, like it's time to start to consider these guys top 35 players and move Tutu maybe down a bit.
This is another one we're going to have to get DJ on and put him on the spot and be like, hey, there's the group that we've talked about, this dynamic group of slot receivers. Why is that? What does that will give?
That's definitely a good conversation for sure. Moving down a little bit, another guy that came up big is Ronnie Perkins, guy that I watched more closely recently and came away really, really impressed. He went from unranked to 38th on Daniel Jeremiah's board. And I know you're a big fan of Perkins too. He's at 61, I think, on PFF's board, but he's coming up.
But he is coming up because I went back through after I did the draft board, I went back through and did the position rankings the next couple of weeks and kind of reviewed those guys back to back to really get a handle on how I wanted to rank them at their respective positions and not just kind of on an overall board. And then after that, he jumped, I think, 3 guys who were above him on the board. So he's going to be coming up in the next one. He jumped over Carlos Basham and he jumped over Peyton Turner on the edge ranking. So I think he's edge 6 for us now on PFF.com. So yeah, he's just, I think the biggest thing that really I came away impressed with was that he can play the run. 247 pounds, the way his list says, Oklahoma. He looks a little bigger than that, to be honest. Like, he doesn't look super undersized, but that man can play the run. Whereas I have questions about Joseph Asai playing the run, some of these other undersized guys, Ojulari even a little. I do not have questions about Ronnie Perkins and how he can play in the running game. I think he plays with fantastic leverage and has some power to him. So, yeah, Ronnie Perkins, that 38 is about, might even be a little higher on him on the next PFF draft board.
There you go. Love to see it. Moving down, another one that we're probably going to talk about a lot more as he continues to kind of move up boards and get into first-round mocks is Kelvin Joseph. Why right now do you feel that Kelvin Joseph is as low on PFF's board compared to where kind of the NFL, I think what you could say the NFL sees him right now?
He's so up and down. And again, 1 year of tape. Obviously, he has freshman year at LSU, but then transfers Saudi year, this past year, redshirt sophomore, opts out, doesn't even play the full season. I don't think he's terribly fast. Like, he has good movement skills. Him and Greg Newsome both have kind of that level of change direction ability, but he doesn't key nearly as quickly, in my opinion, as Joseph does. Or excuse me, as Newsome does. He's just not near that level of polish that you saw in his game. And so I don't think he's terribly fast, and then I don't think he has necessarily the instinctual plays on his tape that we saw from Newsome. And then at that point, you're kind of just in that logjam. There's a lot of guys with good skill sets at the cornerback position in this year's class that I don't think Kelvin Joseph really set himself apart, except for maybe like 2 reps against Alabama that you could buy in on here.
I also think something important to add there that is not really evident right now, but Kelvin Joseph, and he adds it in here, Dan Jeremiah's analysis is still a work in progress, and teams need to do their homework on why he left LSU. From what I've heard,
it's not good.
It's failed drug tests. It's what I've heard. But again, those are rumors. That's not official. From what I've heard, though, it has failed urinalysis test that he either could choose to take suspensions for or ultimately transfer. And he did. And he transferred to Kentucky. But that's from what I've heard. Obviously, people have to do their homework and find the official reasoning for why he did transfer.
That doesn't help.
Which doesn't help. That won't help you. Moving down here, he has right there Jabril Cox right after. He was unranked, now 43rd on his board. I really like Jabril Cox.
Me and DJ again, locks.
But when you think about Jabril Cox and compare him to Jameen Davis, would you rather have Cox or Davis?
Davis is the better athlete. I think that's why DJ's higher on him. I'd rather have Jabril Cox because I think he's the better football player. And he's not a bad athlete. If he was at that point, you're kind of just splitting hairs there. If he was completely inept, if he was a below average athlete, we could flip that distinction. We could flip that rankings of those two for sure. But if a guy ticks the physical box already, and then he plays position outstandingly the way Jabril Cox does, I'm going to go with that guy.
A few more names to highlight here. Rashad Bateman went from unranked to 46th on his board. Aaron Robinson, who I think he was the first to mock him in the first round, has dropped 9 spots to 48th on his board. I ultimately think he's a day 2 corner especially with the arm length concerns, might have to play in the slot the next level. And then another guy that fell pretty big is Elijah Moore, down 7 spots to 50.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he'd drop him.
Yeah.
Wonder why. Because the more I watch Elijah Moore, I'm just like, he fucking does everything well.
Yeah.
There's very few weaknesses to his game besides probably size. Now, he's not elite at a ton of stuff, but I think he's very, very good at a lot of different things.
One notable player that fell completely out of his top 50 was previously ranked number 42. And it's encouraging because we were not high on this player because of production concerns, but knew the NFL would be high on him for athleticism and traits. It's Patrick Jones. And people like Patrick Jones' size. Showed up to the Senior Bowl, though, and to just not have a good week.
Had probably the worst week of anyone there, to be honest. And that's why he dropped out. Like, legitimately, if you were high on him going in, and there's no reason to, there are things on his tape that are encouraging. I could see there are things to like about him projecting the NFL that you would like going in. But that is a guy who legitimately dropped a stock over the week of practice. You should, if you are any evaluator that went back to watch that week, you should not dig your heels in and say, no, I still believe in Patrick Jones as this first round-ish caliber player. You should go back and reevaluate if that's what you still believe in. Because one, he didn't even have super long arms. He had 32-inch arms, which is actually on the very short end for the edge position. And then two, he had the lowest win rate in the one-on-ones ran when there. Those are legitimate concerns.
We're going to transition now to look at expected draft position according to, I think his name is Brian Robinson. Let me find his handle before I...
Grinding the Mocks.
Grinding the Mocks is, I know, the site, and I'm not trying to butcher it.
Not Grinder the Mocks.
Grinding the Mocks. The guy behind the site, though, is Benjamin Robinson. Benjamin Robinson, grindingthemocks.com. He right now is working with expert fans and evaluators and projector mock drafts to kind of formulate an expected draft position considering these mock drafts. And we're going to look at expected draft position for some of these versus where our guys go. But
ADP, it's like fantasy football.
Yeah, it's kind of like average draft position. But before we do so, I have to break some news.
Oh, no.
J.J. Watt right now has officially signed a 2-year deal, $$31 million deal with the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, fuck.
Reuniting with DeAndre Hopkins. Initial reactions of that deal.
You really wanted a ring, I see. No. Why? Like that's you just okay. I don't think Arizona's going to win it all next year. Sorry. I am very surprised. I thought he was going to be in the ring chasing sort of group. Now, Cardinals should make the playoffs next year, but they are losing a lot if they lose Patrick Peterson and just need a lot defensively. So, yeah, I'm surprised to say the least.
I mean, I think a lot of this is wanting to play with DeAndre Hopkins again. I also think a lot of it's West Coast weather, baby. Arizona, though it gets really hot, is a lot nicer than some of those other places that we're calling Cleveland, Buffalo, Green Bay. I'm obviously that's too much, but if you're ring chasing, you're going to Green Bay or Buffalo. Full stop.
Yeah.
If you're looking to best make a ring, maybe this was an
Cleveland
offer thing because he did get
one of the those teams were all the final 8 last year, so that would have made sense. This Cardinals did not make the playoffs.
Maybe they were willing to pay the most, $15.5 million.
Yeah, I mean that's what it seems like. Which good move for the Cardinals. Like this is you pair him up. I wonder what they're going to do now with Chandler Jones because he's owed that big cap hit that we talked about. Yeah. I wonder if they either try to extend him for another year and push it in the future, or it'd be weird though if they just cut Chandler Jones to sign J.J. Watt. I don't foresee that being the case here though.
All right, let's look now at Benjamin Robinson's expected draft position versus PFF's big board rank here. And you can check this out on grindingthemocks.com. 5 guys we are higher on more than the consensus expected draft position. Nick Bolton of Missouri, Rondale Moore, wide receiver, Purdue, Oklahoma State offensive tackle, Tevin Jenkins, which I think is a surprising one. Yeah. I did not expect us to be ahead on Tevin Jenkins. Then you also have Jason Owe of Penn State, and then Rashad Bateman of Minnesota. Those 5 guys.
You hit a nice O there for the
Minnesota. From Minnesota. Of those guys, I think the one that I want to talk about the most is the Tevin Jenkins one. Because he is not necessarily one of those guys where PFF's normally higher on them, where the production's crazy and he's, grading profiles outstanding. It's just he's a really good football player, and I do think that we're big on him for what he can do at right tackle.
Yeah, the production is pretty damn good though. So he had an 85.7 grade in 2019, 92.0 this past year.
Oh, that's right.
He was very good.
Yeah.
And physically as strong as hell. He beat the shit out of Joseph Ossai in that Texas game. It's the reason I am not touching Joseph Ossai in the first or second round. Like that, he just in the NFL. When Joseph Ossai faced NFL caliber strength, he got thrown around, which is worrisome, obviously. So Tevin Jenkins, he's not perfect. His tape's not perfect by any means. And some teams are probably going to, call him a guard, classic right tackle, put him at guard.
He doesn't have the foot speed. I mean, he doesn't have the quickness that some of these other guys have. And I do think when the NFL is looking at traits for offensive linemen, it's quickness, it's explosiveness, and he's just a strong dude with really, I guess, really good production. I misspoke there.
Yeah, and I think he uses his hands exceptionally well. I think that's a quality tackle in the NFL. 44. It's not, so he's 26 on our board, 44 average draft position. So
the other one I want to talk about is Jason Owe. Jason Owe at 20th on PFF's big board, 36th in expected draft position. This guy doesn't have good production. We just love his athleticism. And I think people are scared of the no sacks thing.
But he does have good production for a PFF grade.
Yeah.
Good enough. So people are scared no sacks thing. He had an 81.8 pass rushing grade in 2019. He had an 80.3 this past season with more of a full-time role. 2019, obviously, he was a part-time player behind Shaka Toney and Yetur Gross-Matos. This past season, finally a starter, only a handful of games, but still, it's an 80.3 pass rushing grade. You compare that to someone like Gregory Rousseau, who's lauded for his production, 16 sacks. He only had 80.7 pass rushing grade. They're in a similar sort of and pass rushing grade is, if you break it down to what we're actually grading as pass rushing, it is How often do you beat the guy in front of you? We don't care if you get home. We don't care if it results in a pressure. We don't care if it results in a hit, sack, whatever. You beat that guy and you beat that guy quickly, you're going to grade out well. If you don't beat that guy or don't beat that guy quickly, not going to grade out as well.
Of those five, who are you most nervous about that maybe doesn't pan out to your expectation? And it's an interesting question, but who are you like, oh man, maybe I should bring this guy down?
I truly believe in Owe. That guy, in my opinion, has the freakiest physical skill set of this freaky edge class. That's just
and that's
explosiveness, speed. It's just the combination is there. I just think he was late to the game of football, and it's still kind of catching up. And that's what you see on his tape. And the things that the biggest thing that I buy in is the difference between his 2019 tape and his 2020 tape against the run. That's why he couldn't see the field. That's why he wasn't an every down starter in 2019, is because he was a bit of a liability against the run. He did not play with good leverage. He did not sink and fire. He did not attack blocks the way you would like to see a defensive end attack blocks. And so he got just crushed off the ball at times. That was not the case this past year. His run defense grade exploded this past season. I think 87.3 or something, 89.7, excuse me, after a 59.5 last year. That improvement, seeing that he can put that together, makes me believe that there's more that he could put other things together about his game. And he has a number of pass rushing moves. They're just not, he's capable, just not necessarily refined. So that's Owe I truly believe in. The one that scares me is Rondale Moore, because the usage was so not good.
Yeah.
It was so shit for projecting what you'd like to see him do in the NFL. If you're going to draft him, who was 21st on our board, 39th on the average draft position. That usage is just unlike anything you'll see for his role. And if that is his role in the NFL, he's not a full-time player. You are a part-time bit player.
Yeah.
If that's your entire role. So
if his role doesn't significantly change in the NFL, there's no way. If you're a team drafting and if you are taking Rondale Moore, don't foresee putting him in a more consistent starter role, then you're not going to put him in the first round.
Yeah, then you can just go sign Tavon Austin if you want. Mm-hmm. So that's the one that scares me the most. But I still, like I said, I still believe. Obviously, I'm not fucking moving him, because when you did see him on some reps, the 2019 tape is what if I go back and watch and say, why is he 21st on the draft board? It's because of the 2019 tape. What he did in those 4 games, 2019, it was like 3 and maybe some change before he got hurt, was the closest thing to what his role could be at the NFL level that really sold me.
All right, the opposite side of this, so guys that we were much lower on compared to grinding the mocks expected draft position, Joe Tryon, 38 spots lower than where the expected is. Jalen Mayfield of Michigan, the offensive tackle guard prospect. Najee Harris, which is never going to be surprising. Like, running backs were never going to have as high as expected draft position. Davion Nixon of Iowa, the defensive tackle that I think early in the offseason was consistently mocked in the first round, but has fallen quite a bit of late. And then Joseph Asai, who we just mentioned, got his ass kicked by Tevin Jenkins in a game, and that's a big reason why he's down on our board. Yeah. Of those 5, I do think that the hardest one to really predict and the hardest one to really get to know if we're far on is the Tryon pick. Yeah, I just don't know. We don't know if Tryon is going to be this completely different player and this, this projectable athlete the next level.
And so the biggest thing with Tryon and why I'm, 86 versus 48, and he is, another guy who qualifies as kind of a freak athlete, has the tools that you necessarily want. He's stiff though. He is legitimately not going to be an edge bender. And I worry about guys like that don't have that aspect to their game, because if you can't win to the edge, and you rarely saw him win to the edge in college, it was bull rushes and a lot of inside moves. You can't win to the edge in the NFL, tackles just will sit on you and will just short set you and just make you try to go off the edge. Like I think it's the reason why Jadeveon Clowney, for as freakish as he is, and he's a much freakier athlete than Joe Tryon, never put it all together in the NFL and lived up to the supposed number 1 overall pick hype. And when he did, it was on the inside. And when he did really have his most production, was when he was being moved around and on the inside. It's because he couldn't win the edge against offensive tackles. And so any good tackle would shut him out. So that's, to me, is the worry and why I'd be lower on Tryon.
I will say this before you move on. When I was talking to Alex Highsmith last year, the Charlotte edge defender that's now, I think, projected to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers if Bud Dupree does move on, he was saying that his position coach that really took his game to the next level always said, you have burst, explosiveness, get off to win. You have bend to finish. And I do think that bending the edge and trying to turn the corner is so important when you're actually trying to positively effect on the, have a positive, I guess negative effect on the quarterback when you're actually trying to formulate that pressure. Because as explosive as you can be, you're just going to get ridden upfield and you're not going to get by.
Yeah. So the Najee Harris one, running back value, whatever. We're not going to quibble too much over that one. The interesting one to me here is Jalen Mayfield, that it just never pass protected in college at a super high level. Even this past year, was 75.5 in 2 games against Minnesota and Michigan State with edge defenders that would not qualify as a lot of 2 total pressures over those 2 games that I would not qualify as anything spectacular. 27 pressures back in 2019. And he's not to the level of, this is like legitimate pass protection concerns with his hands and that sort of thing. So that one's why we're lower on him than, I just think there's more finished products in this tackle class for sure.
Of these 5, who are you most likely to move up between now and the final big board update?
Ooh, move up. That's an interesting one. I don't know. I need to have a discussion about running back value and where should a guy like Najee Harris, who you feel really good about his skill set, what he can do. Where do you value that with the analytics guys? I could see moving him up from 67 on the draft board because I don't have concerns. I don't have, there's not big things where I'm like, oh, he's, it's not Trent Richardson here where it's like, like he's running behind massive holes. He kind of is, but like he still showed he could run through some mess a little bit more. I'd say probably Tryon if, his testing numbers really come in on another level. So that's the only one.
There you go. Running backs do matter. Mike Renner, you heard it here first. Awesome stuff. Let's go ahead and jump now to the interviews with Jaelon Darden and Jamien Sherwood. Joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is former North Texas receiver Jaelon Darden. You're in there at Texas now training with Exos. How's it going, man?
Well, it's going great. I'm getting better every day, soaking in knowledge for some great people.
I heard you're training with Rondale Moore, Jamar Chase, Jonathan Adams, Asante Samuel Jr., some talented dudes. I'm sure the competition in the weight room must be nuts right now.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Everybody's coming to work with a chip on their shoulder, getting better, soaking in the knowledge from Brent and the other guys around Exos, and we're just getting after it every day.
There's like some mythical stories about Rondale Moore's ability to squat. Has he shown that out in the weight room? Is that guy squatting like 700 pounds?
Yeah, he's super strong.
Dude, he's a talent for sure, man. So, training at Exos, obviously preparing for a North Texas Pro Day. When is that Pro Day, by the way?
March 25th.
March 25th. Gotcha. And are there any drills you're specifically prioritizing? I know you're probably working on a combination of everything, but are there certain drills like the 40, the short shuttle, the 3-cone, any of those that you're like, I got to get to this time. I have to prioritize this drill?
I'm gonna do my 40 and run routes on Pro Day. Mm-hmm. Everything else I'm gonna do coming up. So,
okay, gotcha. At like the Exos Pro Day, right? Exos is having like their own Pro Day.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Gotcha, man.
I'm definitely do that.
Very cool. Well, before we dive into kind of what you did at North Texas and talk about that season, I want to turn back the clocks a little bit and focus on your high school career. You played quarterback at Aldine Eisenhower High School in Texas, like rushed for over 800 yards, threw for over 600 yards. What, were you like I feel like when you talk to receivers in college football that played quarterback in high school, 9 times out of 10, you were just like the best player on the team and they had to play at quarterback. Is that kind of what it was?
That's exactly what it was. I more so had to take that role, and the friendships I had with the players on the team, it was kind of already just like, man, go ahead and do it and help us out. So that's what I did.
How many players were on the team?
I'll say around roughly probably 40.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so a lot of guys playing both ways in those things.
Yeah, definitely. Yes,
yeah, for sure. Did you play any defense in high school?
I played corner, but I only played 1 game, and I had a pick 6. And
let's go. That's incredible, man. That's awesome. And then, so you originally committed to North Texas over offers from Virginia Tech, UNLV, and all that stuff. What really drew you to North Texas?
To be honest, it was dealing with the way I had to to handle with not playing my senior year in high school. So I kind of had a couple scholarships taken away, and North Texas kind of blessed me at the last minute, and I just took the scholarship and ran with it.
Mm-hmm. And what was that? What kind of kept you from playing that senior season? Was that injury related?
Nah, it was. I switched from going from Eisenhower to Heights High School, and coach said I moved for athletic purposes, so I had to sit out.
Oh no. Okay, gotcha. I've heard some other people have some eligibility concerns like that. What do you think you benefited from playing quarterback? Do you feel like you have a better read of like overall offensive play structure and that type of stuff now going from quarterback to wide receiver?
Yeah, I feel when I played quarterback, it made me understand the game. So now while I'm at receiver, I'm knowing exactly what the quarterback's reads is, and I know exactly what I have to do. So now the timing and everything is on point.
Very cool, man. Well, let's go ahead and jump now to what you did at North Texas. Played a bulk majority of your snaps in the slot there, but had a ton of success winning vertically. That's what I felt like was very impressive from your film. It's like a lot of the times you see slot types working underneath stuff mostly, not running a very vertical route tree, but they were pushing you deep, and for very good reason. You obviously have a burning 40 time we will see at the Pro Day. But talk to me about the experience you had working in North Texas's offense, playing in the slot and running what I think was a very diverse route tree. You ran a lot of different things at North Texas, and I think that's going to help your game a ton.
Yes, sir. Coming in freshman year, I played under Graham Harrell, so that was kind of way different for me. The fast-paced offense, things of that nature, kind of helping me get into the college atmosphere coming from high school, transitioning to college. So I feel with the offense I've been in, I feel like I've been able to show what I really can do as far as putting it all out on the field and giving everything that people want to see.
Winning deep, winning down the football field, I think is one of the bigger strengths that you do have in this class. But also, you were ranked first in total forced missed tackles this past year, according to PFF. A really good job working after the catch. Those are obvious strengths, in my opinion, looking at your scouting profile as a third party. But what do you feel like your strengths are? What separates you in this wide receiver class?
I'll say getting in and out my breaks quick, my route running. Those probably are the main two things I pride myself on and allow me to be different from other players.
And is that something that you've really developed over the course of your career at North Texas? How have you gotten better as a route runner? Are you working with wide receivers coaches, all that stuff? I'm interested to know how you actually progressed.
I have an older brother I actually been training with since I was in high school. So that's more so coming from putting in work behind the scenes that nobody really see, and then translating that to learning coverages and things of that nature, to putting it all together and helping it work out on Saturdays.
In a given game week, how much film are you watching? And when you are watching, say, like an opposing cornerback or opposing defense, what exactly are you looking for as you kind of prepare for an upcoming game?
To be truthful, I watch film every day. It's not a day I don't watch film because of the love I have for the game. And I'm more so watching to see how the DB is playing. Is he physical? What he likes to do, and then I'm going to piggyback off that, because at the end of the day, I'm going to just take what you give me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, man. And how much has that, you say you watch film every day in the off season, when you're not like preparing for games, what film are you watching in the off season? Is it a lot of film on yourself? Is it film on NFL guys? I'm interested to know what you're looking at now.
It's more film on NFL guys who I feel like I play similar to, or I have traits as like, say for instance, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Doug Baldwin, Calvin Ridley. He's one of my favorites. Guys like that's getting in and out their cuts and really separating with route running. That's kind of my go-to.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley is an underrated name there. You talk to wide receiver prospects and they bring up, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones. But Calvin Ridley, man, that guy has really turned it on of late. I've talked to him, a couple months ago, and he has really progressed as a route runner. Do you feel like there are any other receivers I know you brought up Doug Baldwin. Are there any other receivers that come to mind that you feel like you pattern your game off of?
I'll say probably Cole Beasley a little bit. The way he gets in and out his breaks, he's pretty great at running routes. I'm not gonna lie. So I'll say Cole Beasley. Who else can I say? I'll say Julio. The aggression he has in his routes and how he's getting the top speed and shutting it down. That's not normal for a lot of big cats to do. So I'll probably say Julio as well.
What's your opinion of, because I like asking this question with wide receivers and corners, because it is such a chess match. You're going against the same guy a lot. There's like a little battle within the game. What's your opinion of getting into the mental side, talking a little trash, trying to get on them a little bit? Do you ever do that in games?
I'm more so just let it come to me. If you want to talk trash, then we can take it there. But if not, we just have a regular game.
Yeah. I was talking to, who was I talking to yesterday? Amari Rogers of Clemson. And he said, I pattern make game after Steve Smith. And I was like, buddy, if you want to be Steve Smith, you better be ready to talk some shit, because Steve Smith is so much more than a small guy that, brings it every time. Like that guy talks a lot of trash. He's a fun dude. But one more thing, and we can finish with this. What feedback have you received from NFL teams about the role they want to play you in the NFL? Because I don't personally see you, despite size being similar to like a Cole Beasley type, as just a slot guy. I think you can win on the outside. I think you can win on the inside. What type of role do you feel like best highlights your skill sets where you want to play in the NFL?
Like you said, I feel like I can play inside and outside, especially with being able to run the route tree. And more so with teams and how they want to use me, I've been letting my agent handle that. I haven't really been talking to anybody or nothing like that. I've been focused on straight football and trying to accomplish what I have and my goals I have set out for myself.
I think that's a good strategy, man. I really appreciate the time and best of luck moving forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the time and the opportunity.
Joining 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is former Auburn. Kind of, safety is probably where you'd slot you, but you played a lot in the box. You could call you a linebacker in some stance. It's defensive playmaker is what I'm going to go with for you, Jamien. But coming from Auburn here on the podcast, it's great to have you on. I know you're down there in Miami training with House of Athletes. How are things going, man?
Everything's going good. Can't complain. Just living day by day.
How's the weather out there in Miami? In Cincinnati, to let you know, it's like 20 degrees. No, it's like 15 degrees outside, so I hope it's better than that.
Oh, most definitely. It's 84 degrees out right now. Wind's blowing. It's rained the past couple of days for a little bit, but it's been sunny like every day.
Living the dream, man. You love to see it. And so, I'm sure you're working on a combination of the drills that you'll do at your pro day, your Auburn pro day. But are there any drills that you're working on specifically kind of emphasizing? Are you setting any goal times, say for the 40, short shuttle, 3-cone, or any of the drills that at the top of your mind that you're trying to crush? Or is it really just a mix of everything?
Just the base of everything. Obviously, I just want to go out there and PR on everything. Really looking forward to the bench. Obviously, anxious and looking forward to the 40. But I also just want to be like fluid in my drill work. So, like I'm really emphasizing on like working hard on that. Like I'm getting down the details, getting all the right steps down. Just like doing the details and the basics of like being a DB.
Do you have any a goal weight you're working to? I know a lot of the guys are on certain diets and those things. I'd be interested to know what weight you're working to and what weight you played at this past season.
This past season, I played at an average of like 222, 225 sometimes in that area. But that was average. So I'm not really like on a diet or anything. But, I just want to get down maybe like to 215, 214 in that area. Just like to be like, that's probably the lightest I go. Mm-hmm. Run as fast as I can at that weight. And just like be more fluid. I play good at the 220 range, stuff like that. But just to do like these this drill work and stuff like that, just to be lighter.
So looking at your game, there's a handful of takeaways I want to ask you about. But the first one being, you're watching the All-22, you don't always get to see, or the coaches film, you don't always get to see some of the stuff pre-snap, like that what you're doing pre-snap because they kind of wait till the play. But turning on broadcast, you are constantly talking to guys on the Auburn defense. What exactly is your role pre-snap in Auburn's defense? Are you getting the plays from the coach? Are you facilitating that to the players? Because I feel like you're constantly talking before the snap.
Oh, yes, sir. So it's like after the play is over, look at my teammates, next play mentality, no matter what happens the play before, then it's like quick, look to the sideline, get the call. You never know how long it's going to take. They might be hurry up. So, you got to do it quick. Then, once I get the call, reciprocate it to the rest of the players on the field, the near corner, the far safety, the far corner, all the linebackers, even the D-line. Just making sure everybody's cleats are set before the play starts, and then even after I get everybody cleats set, it's like looking at the formation and then like wondering what can happen, if someone moves, what's going to happen, what's the next defense you're going to call, like sub calls. So it's all about pre-snap communication and then like communicating like during the play, because it's not about like where they line up, it's all about where they line up.
I like that. So you must watch a ton of film then. Give me some insight on kind of what goes into a given game week, how much film you're watching, and what you're looking for from an opposing offense when you're turning on the film.
So like at Auburn, we took film seriously, so we're always watching the other team. But like we're looking for keys, tendencies. So it could be like to the simplest thing, the way a guard's on his hands or something like that, like if he's pulling or not, what routes they run on certain situations. So like what they like to go to. Again, they run like shallows over short yardage situation. So it's like just picking up on tendencies and details, really.
The other thing I noticed, and I think this stands out a lot, is you play the game like an asshole, and I mean that in the best way possible. You play the game like you want to hurt people. I think another, a play that comes to mind. Not sure if you remember it, but it was against Arkansas. I think Felipe Franks pulls it on an RPO. He runs the ball ultimately, but pre-snap you just blow up Arkansas receiver number 7, throw him onto the ground, then find the play. I'm not sure if you remember it, but it's awesome. You hit people very hard every single play. I think that's a big part of your game. If you remember that play, I'd love to hear what you said to the guy after, because you were jawing that guy up quite a bit. But if not, speak to the mentality overall about how you play the football game.
I remember that play. I actually didn't say anything. I just stood there and looked at him. So, like when I play like that for a reason, just like to boost my confidence up. Just like, sometimes you get another player riled up that like gets them going. So obviously you don't want to get beat. So it's like, it's going to allow both of you to play your best game, and then like may the best man win at that point. But, I play that way, like hit people in the mouth, let them know that I just hit them in the mouth. So, like just to let them know I'm going to be there all day. So it's more like a confidence thing. And like I said, like, that more confidence you get makes you believe that like your opponent can't beat you no matter what.
I mean, there's another play too where like you're coming downhill from a pre-snap alignment, like a lot of times moving towards the line of scrimmage at the snap, and you make a play, I think on a crosser against Texas A&M, jar the bar loose. Like I feel like a strength in your game, and this has come from like a scout's perspective, is coming downhill, is playing with explosiveness, hitting the guy in front of you, playing the ball in front of you. Do you feel like that is kind of a separating trait or something that makes you kind of a difference maker in this class?
Oh, definitely. The versatility. Whether it's from like communicating to like recognizing the play, to actually being deep or being up front. The versatility. So it's like, the best part of my game is that I can come downhill, hit something, do whatever downhill. But like also like I can play like in the deep halves, deep middle, all that stuff. So me being as versatile as I am and being able to move the way I can, like. That gives me a positive in this year's draft.
I'm interested to know in practice how often you're coming downhill against a pretty good back there at Auburn and Tank Bigsby, and what's it like to tackle him in practice?
We actually like got to go against each other in the like fall camp, the beginning of this past season. He's a hard runner. Obviously I win most of the battles, but no, he's a great runner. He runs hard, tremendous skill set. And like he's like someone great to go against in practice. He really gets you going for the week, and you always know you're going to get 110% out of him.
Another player I wanted to talk about, a former Auburn teammate, is Anthony Schwartz, a guy that just has absolute track speed, is always a tough out, whether he's working from the slot or on the outside. How fast is this kid? I mean, everyone talks about him. He's like an urban legend, but I'm sure in practice you saw some real speed.
Oh yeah, like sometimes in practice he would embarrass you. It's like because you already know, like if they give him a go ball route, it's like, like if he gets that one step, or if you like reach and you miss, it's over with after that. Like I said, one step. If you're not like disrupting his route, he's just gonna run right by you. And then the thing that's so good about him, like over these past 3 years, his route running has gotten better. So it's like. He doesn't even have to run a go ball all the time. He could just hit you with something else. And he's getting like more explosive out of his breaks. So it's like he's getting more deadlier, which is even crazier.
I want to finish with this. I'd be interested to know, how much film you watch on NFL guys, and if there's any, current NFL players that you kind of emulate your game after.
Definitely. So it's like obviously Cam Chancellor, him being like the same size as me, just him being a safety at the size that he was, shows that I can I can compare myself to him because it shows that I can move, come down in the box, play deep, make big hits. I'm trying to get more interceptions and stuff like that, but I could just make the same type of plays as him. Same thing with Jamal Adams. He's a big guy. He can run, he can move, he can cover, he can come down in the box, hit. He can do all of that, versatility skills. And then, like I was talking about confidence earlier, like just Jalen Ramsey. He got that confidence. I like to watch his highlights a lot. Like I said, like he lets his opponent knows he's there every time. It doesn't matter what the score is, what it is. He's going to play hard, and he's just going to make his presence felt.
That's awesome, man. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate you jumping on the podcast, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward, man.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good day.
You too. That's going to do it for this episode of 2 for 1 Drafts, a loaded episode. 2 interviews, 3 breakdowns for Charley Casserly, Daniel Jeremiah, and the expected draft position stuff. You'd love to see it. Make sure to support the podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe. If you leave a review, 5-star review with a question, it is going to be guaranteed answered on the podcast. We will get to it. And I'll also say this. Mike and I have plans for another bonus mailbag because we want to catch up before free agency. We have to get these done before free agency. So if you leave a 5-star review and a question, we will answer it. And we're going to do bonus mailbags until we freaking get this done. We are grinding it out. Thank you so much, everybody. Austin Gayle, producer Mike Quinn, producer Dave. We're going to throw him in there too. Mike Renner, 2 for 1 Drafts.